All right, so we're starting chapter 8, which as you can see, compared to other chapters, this chapter is actually a pretty thin packet. This chapter is kind of a hodgepodge, to use the old lady term there. So it's a big mixture of topics that don't necessarily fit together, but I couldn't fit them somewhere else. In fact, we're going to start with the hydrological, oh my gosh, we'll call it the water cycle. You guys learned the water cycle in kindergarten, and then you revisited the water cycle probably almost every grade after that, right? You guys know the basics of the water cycle. What is the water cycle, first of all?
Water's down on the ground.
Okay.
Sun heats it up.
Okay.
Goes into cloud.
Okay.
Cloud goes to mountain or like higher up elevation.
Okay.
Precipitates.
Okay.
Water runs down said hill.
Okay.
Hill leads into a pond.
Yeah.
And it starts all over again.
Okay, and it starts all over again. It's basically how the water is recycled throughout our system. I'm sure you've heard that you could be, just all of you taking a sip, you could be taking a sip of water that George Washington used to rinse his dentures with.
Oh, that's cool. Ah.
Or my daughters like to point out that it could be dinosaur pee too, but who wants to go there? So why are we going to learn something that you learned starting in kindergarten? Because we are going to 10th grade it up a little bit, but nothing we're going to do today is rocket science. There are a few key words that you're going to have to know. So let's take a look at this picture right off the bat here. I am sure you know some of these terms. Let's start with the picture for number 1 there. What is happening? And you even know the vocab word. So number 1, that's evaporation.
Like 2 out of the 4.
Well, first of all, there's 6. So we.
I guess I'm missing a couple more.
That's all right. And you're not supposed to. I am going to take this basically like you don't know any of them. So we've got number 1, that's evaporation. How about this one? And this one, I'm guessing most of you do not know this one. It's water vapor from plants. It is not like dew on grass. This is like when plants do their thing, their photosynthesis thing. What do the plants do? How does photosynthesis work? What do they do? Get energy from the sun. Make food with it. What else do they take in when they don't take water in, they give it off. So what, anybody remember what that's called? You learned it last year. No, it's actually called transpiration. Now you remember it. So hang on, I don't know if I'm spelling it right. I don't want to put, I'm pretty sure I know it, but I don't want to put the wrong spelling because that's always embarrassing. Transpiration. It's like perspiration, which is actually why I actually call it plant sweat. No, I always spell check. All right, so that's transpiration. Let's go back to the picture. Number 3 is in the clouds. This year we learned the vocab word for when liquid water turns, or for when water vapor turns into liquid water in the clouds. It is like condensation, not like condensation. It is condensation. Okay, good. So 4 you can see is at the rain, which is officially called no, it's not. It's called precipitation. Yeah. No, you said it right. I was about to say it wrong.
I think the only reason I know I can remember these is when we did the baggie.
Yes. Yeah, you put it in. I should get one going. I think I know why you remember it, but we'll talk about that in a second. How about number 5? Yes, so that was not probably part of the water cycle that you learned in kindergarten. It could have been. But how about number 6? What is that arrow on number 6 doing? Okay, it is the water. And so with absorption, what is that? What's happening? The water sinking in, and that's officially called infiltration. No, I think it should be pretty good. So Tyler says he remembers this because there was a baggie filled with water that they stuck to the window. But I know there was a song. There was a song.
I don't remember the song.
Evaporation,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I already don't want to know.
condensation, evaporation, condensation,
Yeah.
precipitation, runoff. Which school did you go to? Daisy, which one did you? You were in Delavan. So anybody here in Arcade remember the song? So I think that's really what's going on. I think Arcade did not do the song, but Delavan did the song. My kids did the song.
I don't remember it though.
And you did it. What? Okay, yeah, my kids did it in Eden. So evaporation, condensate, there was movements, there was a dance, condensation, precipitation, runoff. And now we have to go infiltration. But anyway, I know it does ruin it. That's probably why they left it off. But anyway, so you learned it in a different grade? Oh, you did? Nice, nice. Then they were teaching you advanced science apparently. Well, and absorption is that's more of the like what normal humans would call it. But scientists call it infiltration. All right, so let's get a description. You know the general gist of most of these. So evaporation is just the change of phase from liquid water to water vapor. Transpiration, like I said, I call it plant sweat. If that helps you remember what it is, you can write plant sweat over there. Transpiration, like perspiration, plant sweat. It is water vapor that enters the atmosphere from plants, not dew, because remember, dew is condensation. Not only is it Monday, it is the Monday after break. Now, steps 1 and 2 can often be combined in what's called evapotranspiration. So evaporation, evapotranspiration, evapotranspiration. They just combine the 2 words, and it's just all the water that's going basically up from the ground. Condensation, again, we learned that already this year. It's the change of phase from water vapor to liquid water. It's the clouds. Precipitation, again, make sure you know it's any form of precipitation. So if you have room there, rain, sleet, snow, hail, etc. It's some sort of water falling from the clouds. Runoff is just water that flows over the land into a larger body of water, and I'll put in infiltration again, water that soaks into the ground known as groundwater. So why don't you get those three into your notes? Oh, did I not do double-sided on these packets? Some of you do. Some of you don't. So that explains why some of you didn't think they were thinner. So sorry about that if I forgot to do double-sided on yours. Anyway, so moving on to the little bit of notes that are on the top of page 2. What are 4 things that can happen to precipitation? So again, nothing here is rocket science. You guys have not lived under a rock. What happened to the rain that rained the other day? Where'd it go? So one thing is it can soak into the ground. I'll put them all up and we can go in order or whatever order, it doesn't matter. One thing is it can go on into the ground. What's another thing that could happen to it? One thing is it can evaporate. One is it can run off to a larger body of water. What's another thing? Not necessarily that happens every time precipitation falls, but sometimes it can freeze and be stored as ice or snow. So here are the 4 things that can happen to any precipitation. One is it evaporates back into water vapor. 2, it can soak into the ground, which is it can infiltrate into the ground. It can be stored as ice or snow, or it can run off. All right, then the next question asks conditions that can increase the rate of evaporation. So you guys know it rained, some of the water soaked in the ground, but most of the water probably evaporated, especially the stuff that was on like the sidewalks or the roads or the driveways. What happens, what can we do, or what happens in nature that can increase how fast evaporation happens? Heat. So hang on. So heat, why does heat, meaning if it's warmer, why does it tend to evaporate more? No. No, Guys, what do we know about warm air? It does rises, but what else? Warm air can
Hold more water.
warm air can hold more water than cold air. So one thing you can do is turn up the temperature. What's another thing you can do? Let's say your basement flooded. Okay, one thing you could do is like suck it up, shovel it out. But what if you want it to just evaporate? You turn up the heat. What's another thing you can do to get rid of the water? Huh? Besides removing the water. I said we want it to evaporate. Hmm? Okay. So yeah, so increase the heat. Wind. Put a fan on it. Think of hanging clothes on the line. What days do they dry faster? Windy days. Windy, warm. Oh, what's another thing that we could do to increase how fast that water evaporates in your basement, or how fast clothes dry on the line? A dehumidifier. What does a dehumidifier do? Takes moisture out of the air. So if the dehumidifier is running, that way more water can then get sucked up into the air because it's drying out the air. Clothes on a line don't evaporate nicely or don't dry nicely on humid days, but on dry days, they dry really quickly. The last thing, I have a gallon of water right here. If I just took the lid off of this, if I came back in a day or a week or probably even a month, would it be gone? Would it evaporate? Some of it would, right? You guys who have fish tanks know that the water does evaporate out of a fish tank. You have to add more. It doesn't leak, must go into the air, but it takes a while. Huh? I don't like a canner, is that what you're saying? Oh, no, not because it doesn't need to heat up. It evaporates. Water evaporates. What can I do to make that gallon? If I had that gallon, I want it to all evaporate. What would I have to do with that jug of water? Okay, I could heat it up. I could dump it out. How would dumping out the water make it evaporate? I didn't ask how could I remove it from the bottle. I asked how could I make it evaporate? Okay. So what is it not being in a container allowed to happen? Okay. So even if I took the top off, so that's what I maybe missed that part. Is it going to evaporate? Some of it will evaporate. But when I dump this out, if I was to dump this on the ground, would it eventually evaporate? Yeah, actually it'd probably be gone by tomorrow. If I spread this across the floor, it would evaporate faster than leaving it in the container. Why? More spread out, more surface area. Those four you need to put into the notes there. In your basement, people often squeegee the puddle. They spread it out because having a tiny layer of water all over the basement is easier to evaporate than having a small, deep puddle. Like I said, your homework is the bottom of page 2, all of page 3, all of page 4. It is only 9 questions. So while it sounds like a lot because it's 3 pages, obviously they're on page 4. Please do not do the notes section, just the questions. Don't do this, only the questions at the top. And also remember, I highly recommend everybody do the test corrections. If you are confused about the test corrections, please see me. Everyone's guaranteed a 65 or 10 points higher on the test, or whatever you earn on the retake if that's higher than both of those other 2 options.